Hi everyone, I hope you're good guys and welcome for a new video. So today we're gonna talk about my Deep Techno 2 Ableton template and we're gonna go through the arrangement, all the automation evaluation I made, the mixing and mastering. So this is the part 2. If you haven't watched the part 1, it will appear in the right corner and the link will be down in the description. So let's have a listen. So obviously the track is 10 minutes, so it will be hard to have a global idea, but you can go to check the product detail and you will find a SoundCloud link where you can listen to the track fully. It kind of sounds like this deep melodic techno. Very deep, very ambient, a bit hypnotic as well. So yeah, let's jump into the arrangement. So the first thing I want to say is you have clips which have like a different kind of length. So if you go in your session view here, you have the original or arrangement idea. Now it doesn't follow that, but that was the original main idea. I left it like this, you can have an idea. And if you check the length of the clip, you can see, for example, the pad, it's 11 bar and half, which is, if you multiply by 2, it's like, let's say 23 bar, which is easier to understand. Chords are the same because they are basically following the pad. But then if you go to cent, you can see it's going to be a 4 bar length kind of loop. And if you go to the key, you can see it's going to be a 3 bar loops. The drums are 4 bar loops. You can see the bass line is as well kind of 4 bar loop, a multiple of 4 or 2, and because of that, things will always kind of be shifting, you know, because you cannot kind of follow usually you will follow always the grid, like having changed every 8 bar or every 16 bar. But you can see here you cannot really follow that because you have to follow the pad. I mean, I decided to follow the pad, so it's kind of you don't have changement exactly every 16 bar, every 8 bar is changed. And if you check the sidechain, you can see that so this track is used for the sidechain, but it has a different purpose as well. You see you have clip with different color and different size. Basically what this means is like every time the color change, it's like a new changement into the track. And so you can easily see when it's changed and for how long you see. So for example, for this first it's like 8 bar, but then after here it's a bit more longer and it's a bit more than 16 bar, and then it's changing again, it's changed again here, then it changed but it's smaller, and so on. I see you got my point. And if you watch the grid, so every 16 bar, and you check, I've put this marker here as well to show when there is all the time a changement. You can see there is nothing, it's not always on the grid and it's always shifting, and so which is kind of great in a way, because it means like it's kind of hardly never the same. It's always something shifting and happening differently. And I think this is kind of things important as well for the, I mean, not important, but it can be great for this kind of track. To don't have everything fixed to the grid and having things with different lengths, clip with different lengths, which is kind of creating these polymeter kind of vibes. Let me just explain you briefly the arrangement before to dig into part by part. So you've got the intro, which is pretty long, almost 2 minutes, but that's fine because always keep in mind it's always a kind of progressive track. I like to do like this, like adding element one after the other. Then you have the break, where you've got the main chord which start to appear and play normally. Then you have what I've called the chorus 1, which is playing, and then you have a short break. Then you got into the verse 2, where you have this cent 1, which is kind of the second lead, if I can say so. This cent 1 is like to take a break a little bit from the chord, because if you listen always the same sound and same melody the whole track, you will easily get bored. And then after you have a long break. So this was really like to kind of take a break, like having a quiet moment, and you will see like there is this part in the break where everything is very quiet and very calm, very peaceful, and it's just to having, in terms of dynamic, to have something a bit more quieter and a bit more calm before to again start bouncing again with the second chorus. And you will see in this part I add a chord plus 12, which is the same down chord but an octave upper. And you have as well this bridge, which is interesting. Like a little bit after during the chorus, I have this period where I remove the drum, and where you can hear the chords a bit more better. You will hear it. You will hear later how it sounds. And then after you go back to normal, and then after you have the final break and the outro. So that's like to have an idea how the global arrangement is built. But now obviously we're gonna go a little bit more in detail, like how everything goes. So let me bring the automation A, and you can see it start. You just have the kick here. You have the perk 1, perk 2, the bass line, and you have your pad as well. So you can see the pad is just playing one single note at the beginning before to play the normal chord progression, note progression. And you can see the filter open slowly. So you have this clicky ambience and granular texture at the beginning. Then you have your close hi-hat coming up. So you can see I color code the hats. You have light gray, which is just the close hi-hat, middle gray, which is more like a close hi-hat and close hi-hat 2, and the dark gray where you have all the hats. So one thing I have done here, you see you have a GK automation. Basically it's on the first close hi-hat is basically open hat, and I play with the GK to, it's helping the transition, but it's as well add a nice movement to your hats and kind of bring excitement as well to your track. Then I introduce the perk 3 and the close hi-hat 2, which the close hi-hat 2 kind of play like an open hat, you know, off beat. So now you start to hear the pad as well, the normal pattern. And I start to modulate the bass line, the filter, and the resonance a bit more. And then we introduce the more hats, and the chord start to play. But obviously you can see this is the normal pattern. You can see here it's like I remove 2 notes here, the second and the fourth note. So it's more like a bigger interval. And yeah, the hats are coming. Yeah, this is like the main lead starting to appear slowly. You have this perk as well to start to play before I forgot to say, but now you have this perk, and you have this hypnotic sync as well, which is playing. Alright, then we're having the break. So first part of the break, we kind of get rid of everything. The chords start to play the normal chord progression. You can see the filter is quite down here. It's just like, again, like to make things progress and go progressively, gradually up. And you can see so we straight away get rid of all of the drum, the kick, the bass, the perk 1, the perk 2, 3, and 4 are still there, but you can see they are fading out slowly. This is still there. So this key is I had because it's kind of a simple patch, but it's really nice. It's this kind of hypnotic kind of scent that is like the whole track is there, and you know it's just like here without being here, and yeah, it just have this hypnotic function basically. And then the SFX here. So then we go in the pad, and you can see here I have SFX in the middle of the break. It's like to really kind of separate the break in 2 parts. You can hear like here it's more quiet and peaceful because we get rid of this scent. But still, because the filter is opening here and the pad as well, we kind of create this momentum with the SFX as well. And then we drop. So again, this kind of techno, you don't want to have like a too sophisticated build-up and like a breakdown. You just want something very easygoing, very natural, organic. So not too much. Even I put maybe a bit more SFX. Just I could have let the filter open, and it does the job. It bring the tension and then the release. And then we start in the drop. So you just have the kick and the bass line's playing with your chord progression, and you still your pad as well with the, you can see the filter a little bit down, and you get back this hypnotic sound as well. So you can see obviously along the track the filter of the pad and the chord are always moving, and same with the bass line. You can see it's always, but for the bass line you have the resonance and the filter envelope, which is kind of, sometimes you have the impression the bass line is kind of acid a little bit. And then we go into, we add the ads. So we add the ads, the full ads. So this basically should be this color. So again, it's very, you can see it's like you have 12 bar between the two changements, very slow. Then we add the percussion. Here the pad is a bit more in the background because we bring down the filter. Pad's coming back up. Then we bring this cent one here. This arrives slowly, obviously. And then we're gonna arrive in break 2, where we get rid of the kick, the hat, the break 3, the bass line. So here the point is to get rid of the chord and the pad, because we want to take a break from the chord and the pad. So we bring the volume down, the filter, sorry, down, and we bring the filter of the cent one up. So you see this one is going up, but then we bring it down. Like, it's kind of always the same principle. It's like bring down to make things quieter, to for later bring them up again, and you know, you create this kind of dynamic movement instead of having everything at the same level all the time. And then we just leave the perc, because this percussion, kind of ambient percussion with this clicky percussion as well. Then we just add the close hi-hat. So yeah, this part is really to take a break from the chord and the pad. You can see the pad is still playing, but the filter is so low that you can barely hear the pad. But it's there, and like this we can start after again to bring it up and start to hear it more and more. And you hear like how this is important. It's like here without being here. And yeah, so then after we arrive in the long final break. So you can see we get rid of the kick and the hats and the bass line. Oh yes, one thing I haven't said is for this part the bass line as well play a different pattern. It play like the just one single note. It's still modulating a lot, but it was playing just one single note. It's just like to kind of take a break as well from the bassline melody. So then we arrive in the long break, and same, you can split it in two parts. So you have the first part here where it's gonna be bringing everything down, calming things, you know, like you can see you get rid of the percussion slowly as well. You can see the cent one is going down as well. I don't remember if I don't have automation on the key one, but you're gonna hear things kind of fade out, and then you have this point of where you reintroduce the chord, but you introduce as well the chord plus wave, which is like the same preset but with an octave upper, which is kind of bring new harmony and like a kind of a bit of new stuff to the track, kind of bring a new element. And yeah, you can see the filter is down, so it's play but at very kind of muffled a little bit sound, and then you open slowly the filter to obviously build the tension. And same goes with the pad, you can see it's go down and then it's go up. So okay, just let's have a listen. So here it's pretty high, we need to reduce everything. can see the first part still pretty high level. Okay, now we start to get rid of everything. The center one, the pads go down. The K1 is still playing, but you can see that these two is gonna disappear right at this point. And yeah, you can see how quiet it became, and like this we can hear the chord properly. The filter of the pads already start to open up from the chord as well. So this helps build the tension, obviously. Then you have this playing, which means like, oh, okay, something is coming back now. Filters still keep opening, and you will have the SFX playing as well. And again, we start just with the kick, with the bass. Obviously not a big build-up, and like before, I don't want something too sophisticated. And here you can hear like basically the high chord. You basically barely hear it because I bring down the filter. This is just add variation to don't have something too linear, you know, like with the filter always up. So you bring it up during the breakdown. Then for the first couple of bars, you bring it down back. And then after you start to open and down, and like this you can always have variation and avoid to have something again too linear and all the same all the time. You can see I play with the filter of the pad as well, it's going down, up. Obviously the bass still modulating. Here is an interesting part. So here I had this kind of bridge. The thing is, as you can see, like I started with the chord plus 12 with the filter low, so we couldn't hear it, and I kind of wanted a drop as well, kind of not a drop, but a kind of momentum with the chord, where the chord will have the filter up. So that's what I've done here. And the thing is, here was full hats, and I kind of, you have a low cut here on the mix down, and you kind of have like your momentum here, because the fact of getting rid of the drum, and you have the chord opening more and more, and it's kind of creating this nice, I don't know. It just work well, and it adds variation to your track as well. Avoid to be like exactly the same than the first chorus. Even though on this one you have this scent as well. Then you bring back the has, the perk. Then you have the perk 4. Alright, and then we go into the final break, and here is where we get rid of the chord, and we bring down the filter of the pad as well to bring things quiet a little bit. So here you can see so it's like the outro, but you can see the beginning of the outro, you will still have like things going on. You can see, for example, descent, there is still some automation, so it's kind of a outro, but it's still a bit part of the track. And that's why the thing is, we use this to bring down, and then after we bring it up just before to drop. So here we get rid of a bit one of the hats. This should have been darker as well. My fault. So you can see, like, for almost 12 bar, yet we still have a lot of things going on. And then after we start to get rid of the hats, the perk, and you can see this start to fade out as well. The filters start to go down. And this at the end I wanted. So you can see it's not like just this one a basic outro. Like I would slowly start get rid of the element. You can see here I'm still playing with the bass line and the acid and the resonance, sorry. And then after we bring down the filter and get rid of everything. So that's the that's the whole arrangement. It's quite a long arrangement, but this kind of track you have to have something long. It's not like, it's like a very deep hypnotic kind of feeling, so you have to have things which last a little bit. Otherwise, if it's changing too much, you kill the vibes and the intention of your track. All right, so let's talk about now automation and modulation. So as you can see here, there is quite a lot of automation going on. So you can see first what's like the automation going on is, so you have two kind of automation and modulation. So you want the one I've drawn them manually. Here you can see in the arrangement view, and there is some who are like use the LFO inside track, which are kind of automation kind of. But yeah, so first we're gonna talk about the one I've done manually. So for example, this one with the GK, you remember the open hat, which is opening, the close hat, which is becoming an open hat. So here first, the intention was like to, at every change, do that, but you can see that I, on the end, didn't really follow all the time that. You can see here there is no changement, but it's still there. It's, yeah, just to add a bit of variation. It's add movement to your hats as well, because they are pretty steady, these hats, and so it's a great way to add movement and extra groove. So then in the bass line, you can see you have two. So you have the filter envelope, which is you can consider like as a filter, and you have the resonance. And this way I could like sometimes crank up a little bit the resonance to make it, the bass line, sound a little bit more like acid. See this kind of vibes. And so this I just play and record live, basically. The way I do it is usually I just press record and I'm just playing with the whole track and the modulation, but that's important because you see it's always changing and always different, evolving, and yeah, so that's the second one. Then you can see you have the pad, which is automated. Here again is like to kind of sometimes put it more in the background, bring it up more in the front. You have the chord as well. You can see that they kind of, when the chord here, for example, is more in the front, so the filter is up, the filter of the pad here is down, and as the opposite, when the chord, the filter is down, the pad, the filter is up. Kind of adding movement, bringing element in the front and in the back, giving some element more importance at some point of the track, and bring other element more in the front to give them more importance. So yeah, obviously it's helped to fade in and fade out sound. It helps as well to build tension during the break. It's not like a very, like during the track, it's not like a very huge variation, but it's just the variation enough to kind of add pretty high. And you can hear it's kind of, it's just add dynamic as well to your sound. So that's, I've done the same for the chord. And for the chord plus 12 as well, it's just following here. You know, it's like basic arrangement with the filter. And then here you have the synth one. So here again I play You can see with the resonance as well. So again, exactly the same principle. I've kind of play, and yeah, always adding variation to don't have the same, because it's a basic synth patch, so you have to make it always evolve and vary, and because otherwise it's too monotonous and you want to avoid that, obviously. And then last automation I've done is the low cut. So here is something you see I've just added an EQ8, and it's just like to help transition. You see before to introduce a new element. Let me add and click. Just gonna have this one here. You see here before to introduce the part, I have a low cut. It's a classic trick which works all the time. And I have as well this riser as well here. I've just used it here, but it's you see this kind of wash out DJ effect. If I go, let me put where there is a kick. See this kind of DJ effect, and I've just used it for this break a little bit to help to build the tension. But it's kind of very subtle. You can see it doesn't go. Alright, so that's the automation who are like draw on your arrangement. But then after you have in this track plenty of automation which are kind of automatic, let's say, or automated. And as you can see, for example, here you have the auto filter. So it's a high pass filter, but you can see the LFO is engaged, so which means like your filter is gonna move this way, and which is kind of always modulating and make your track change. You have again the auto pan as well, which is gonna bring your sound to the left and then going to the right. So that's automation I like to do because it's automatic and it's always evolving. So that's quite nice. Same goes with the Perk 4. Obviously, it was the same patch. So you have again the auto filter and auto pan here. But you remember that I've activated the invert. So this way, when the Perk 3 is on the left, the Perk 4 will be on the right. So you can hear there is one on the right and one on the left. And now they're gonna symmetrically cross over. And now you have the opposite. The Perk 4 is on the left and the Perk 3 is on the right. And they move around along like this the whole track. One thing I've done here, you can hear this kind of pitch modulation. You have the delay time, which is modulated by the LFO. So again, it's gonna always slightly change basically the Perk 4, the kind of the pitch always change. Because the original loop, the percussive sound was always the same. But this way I have this pitch slightly modulating. I could have used the frequency shifter as well to done that, but I don't know, I was just experimenting with the delay. And so yeah, that's movement which is like automatic during the whole track. And same with the bass line. For example, you have plenty of LFO. So for example, on the filter, you have a random LFO which is gonna crank up a little bit randomly the value of your filter, but you have as well the internal LFO of operator, which is modulating the filter, as you can see here, which is gonna make it move up and down. So you kind of have two modulation. It's quite hard, but for example, your filter is going up and down, but just follow the mouse, sorry. It's going up and down, but because of the LFO as well, it's gonna kind of move like this up and down. Like if it was shaking a little bit. And then on the pad as well, you can see the filter here is automated by the LFO, which is slowly moving. You can see you have the flanger as well, which is you have an LFO on the flanger to make it slightly move. And what do I have? I have as well on the chord, I think I have an auto pan here, which is like, so the same principle than the other, making the sound move from the left to the right. This one is a bit more subtle. You see, it's just 50%. I didn't want it to get too much out of the center axis. You see, you have your center here, your left here, and your right here. Just move around the center. I didn't want it something too big, so that's why it's there. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the automation and variation, but it's still a lot going on, you know, it's not like everything steady and flat. All right, let's talk about mixing now. So if you're familiar with my video, you know that I've kind of mixed as I go, and I don't really do like a mixing process. The reason being that usually the point of the mix is to have like cohesion between your track, and this is something I do automatically because it's very important. Every time I add a new element, I want him to fit with the rest of the track. I don't want to leave that for after. So you will see that my process for mixing is always the same, and you will always have this 4 type of elements. So which mean overdrive or saturation. This is usually just to give a bit of character to your sound or make it a bit brighter, add harmonics. You see, it's never not something completely crazy. Let me check. And the thing is, it's always the same process. So first, saturation or overdrive or any kind of, this is just to add a bit of grit, a bit of harmonic. Then I will EQ to get rid of the frequency I don't like and boost a little bit the one I want. And then I will add a bit of reverb. So reverb usually for the drums, the hat, always having a short decay time, something around 600 milliseconds, or not too much dry wet. Obviously this depends on what are your intentions. Sometimes I have to have a closer hat in the big room. It really depends, but usually most of the time short decay, not too much dry wet. Usually the dry wet around 30%, and I add a bit of delay. Just this is no kind of, it's not a mixing reason, its purpose is just to add a bit of movement. You can hear better how the EQ works. So just get rid of the low frequency I don't need, getting rid of the resonant frequency, and boosting the frequency I need to be put in the front. And basically I use this technique, I mean this kind of chain for all of the elements. You will find it on almost all of the track. Okay, obviously not this one that I pick up, but if you go to the pad, you will have always saturator, you can see, and you have delay, reverb, and an EQ here, saturator, EQ, delay, reverb. And then after like I said, the delay and the reverb, it's more about sound design rather than mixing purpose. Like for example, this chord, I wanted to have my chord in a very big space, so obviously I bring a reverb and I bring the decay around 12 seconds, long, dry wet, and yeah. But yeah, for me this is no mixing, this is more like a sound design purpose. You can see it's what I've done pretty much all the time. Saturation, overdrive, EQ, get rid of the frequency I don't like, I boost the one. Then after, how you can ask me, how do I know I have to boost this one? This is just like, it's depend on the sound, you know, there is no rule. Usually it's, you have to see the one. You see here it sounds too muffled, but bringing around here, it just helps a little bit to stand out and to be a bit more in the front. And then after, how you set your reverb. So here is usually how I do. So I have the drum for the reverb. This is how I set my reverb. It's obviously is not always all the time like this, but by rule of thumb is something I do this way. Is for the drum I have my reverb which a decay around 600, 800 milliseconds, 30% dry wet. This is where I will put all my hats, clap, sometimes percussion as well. You want them a bit more in the front. And then after, I will then put my lead and my synth, which I would call the middle. Imagine a 3-dimension plan where you have the front, the middle, and the background. In the front, I will put the drum and maybe the lead as well. And then after, in the middle, I will put all the other, maybe percussion, some of the synth as well, some of the lead. For example, the synth. You see, it's 3 seconds. This I will call like more like the middle plan, because it's not too much in the front, but it's not too in the background either. And this one is quite in the front, even though there is a long reverb, but because the volume is loud. But something like the pads, then you can see it's like you have 11 seconds and you have the dry rate at 90%. So this is really to put it really on the back. And see, this is more like in the middle. But yeah, then after it depends. Sometimes the pack I would want them to be more like in the back, sometimes more like in the middle or in the front. This is really up to you how you want things to be. But obviously always avoid to have like elements which share the same frequency range at the same space in your mix, because it's how you kind of messed up everything. You see this one around 2-3 seconds. Between 3 and 6 seconds is what I would call like the middle, where I put all my lead and scent and stuff like that. Here this one is, the example is a bit different because I wanted the chord to have a very long tail. So because of the dry rate is 30%, it still kind of feel like in the middle, the chord, like not too much in the background, but yeah. Here I have a long decay because you can see the chords are the interval between the chord is very large. So I can allow the sound to have a long tail, a long reverb tail, because it will not overlap to the next note, you know, rather than scent one and key one. For example, if I have a too long reverb, like it will obviously, the reverb tail will overlap with the next note playing, you see, because the notes are very close and it gets something messy. Rather than here it's fine because things play slowly, so the tail I have the time to go down before the reverb is triggered again. Quite hard to explain them, but I hope you get it. And yeah, then after, yeah, like I say, EQ, it's nothing. You can see it's no big delay all the time. It's distortion, delay, reverb. And even the delay is not really mixing, as I say. Usually it's more like a rhythmic purpose or... So you see, if you remove the delay, like you sound very steady and it doesn't move, you know, and you need to really add the delay to make it move it, you know, to shake it, you know. And but this is, for me, sound design. This is not mixing. And yeah, again, boost as usual. So that's my things on the trick on the mix. And one thing I do for the hats, I've talked about last week, but I will say again, I like to use trumpets lately on the hats. The reason is mainly because of this transient function, which is kind of acting like a gate. And the thing is, what I'm doing, I can have like hats and having a long reverb tail, because I will use this transient later to kind of reduce the tail. So you hear the reverb, but there is almost no tail. And the more I go up, the more the tail of the reverb come back. And that's something I like to use, because this way I can have my hats with the tone of a wide reverb. Like you put them in the reverb which has a long decay, so you got the impression that they are in the larger room. But because of this transient that you bring down, you kind of reduce the tail of the reverb. So this way you don't have the annoying tail which is staying after and making your mix muddy and messy, basically. So it's having the best of both worlds, you know, large reverb feeling, but without having this annoying long tail that usually it comes with. I could have used a gate, obviously it's like more or less the same kind of idea, but this one is just one knob, it is fast, and I can add a bit of drive, crunch, and compression usually on my hats, and it works well. It makes them a bit more punchier, aggressive, and yeah, that's one thing I like to do. I like as well to sometimes add a bit of, it's not reverb on the kick, but you see it kind of make it sound a little bit less dry, obviously. And it as well help a little bit to cut through the mix. Obviously you have to be gentle, don't go too nuts on it, but yeah, that's it for the mix. Let's talk about the mastering. So this is always kind of homemade mastering, like I like to call it, because It's just to have an idea how your track would sound if it was mastered. But yeah, it's honestly quite hard to master with Ableton Stock Plugin, I reckon. But yeah, it's still doable to have, like I said, an idea of like homemade master, you know, like to have something, having an idea. So you have the utility, which is bringing everything under 200 Hz in mono and bring the width a little bit up. Then you have this EQ, low cut to get rid of everything under 30 Hz. This I don't always do it, but for this one I wanted to do it. Mainly this kind of round 808 kick I like usually to cut, because there is usually a lot of sub that I don't want. Again, this is matter of taste, because like this is sound rounder, but this I'm scared that in a club system or stuff like that will be maybe a bit too bassy. This I remove here just to kind of get rid of the muddiness. So again, you lose kind of a little bit of punch, but you gain in clarity. So again, it's up to you to judge how much clarity you wanna win a little bit, but obviously you're gonna lose punch in the same time. So that's, you have to compromise and choose the decision that you want. Then here I boost at 1 kilo. So let me maybe bring somewhere where it's a little bit more. Just add a bit of clarity. I usually do the same around 5 kHz, 6 kHz, 8 kHz. Usually it's depend on the track, but I usually boost around this 1 kilo, 3 kilo, 5 kilo, 8 kilo, and usually it helps with clarity and be more precise. But this obviously is depend on the track and what I've got. So here it was just, it's nothing big deal. Boost here, and then I have a boost here a little bit, and then a high cut just to get rid of. Then I usually a bit of glue compression just to kind of bring things together. You can see it's just a little bit. And you can see it's like I activated the EQ to avoid the kick to trigger the compressor basically. Usually you have threshold and I go down until I have 1, 2, 3 dB of reduction. It really depends. Saturator is just to add a bit of loudness, you know, making things louder without crushing too much the dynamic. And then I have 2 limiters. So the first one is more like for color. I like this limiter because it's like the saturation. It adds a little bit of warmth and it adds a little bit an extra something to your sound, and that's why I like to use it. But again, you can see it's like picking just a little bit of saturation. And the last one is just for loudness. So sorry I didn't remove everything one by one, but to have an idea. This works really well. I really love this limiter. And yeah, that's the final master. Again, it's homemade mastering. It's just like to kind of have an idea. I always will recommend to have someone different than yourself to master your own track. I think that's it. I hope you like it, guys. If you want to support me, you can grab the template, the link in the description. Thank you very much for watching, guys. See you soon. Bye bye.